Hey guys, this week we're talking about what's missing from athletic performance programs, and we're talking about really across the country, like high school, the private sector, all the way into college. So let's get started. What we need is a systematic approach to teach our athletes the little things. We all do those big things. We're all gonna we're gonna lift hard. We might think that our system, our program, whether it be weightlifting or whether it be powerlifting, we might think that it's like, the end all be all. But that's not what causes people to become champions. That's not what separates the good from the great. I think we all know that. We're gonna tell our athletes, hey, make sure you're on top of your nutrition, or we're going to tell them, make sure you're sleeping well. And what does that mean? We've got to start teaching our athletes. We can't just mention nutrition. We got to start teaching them nutrition. We need curriculum, and then we need a way to track, and we need a way to keep them accountable. So that's what we're talking about today, the things that are missing. So let's get started. I want to go ahead and drop in my slides for today. So first off, it's going to be like a 7-part series. And so really 8 counting today. But here are the 7 areas I think that are missing, to become a true master of the mundane. If you want to be I'm not saying that we're all trying to make our athletes to be the greatest of all time in whatever they're doing, but to maximize the potential in our athletes. So part 1, they're going to need sleep education, monitoring, and accountability. Part 2, nutrition and recovery education, monitoring and accountability. We're talking about developing curriculum and then monitoring these areas and then holding our athletes accountable. Part 3 would be testing with clear insight of the KPIs that we consider important. KPIs that are important to the sport and to the individual, and how to implement changes, and how to mentor. Part 4 will be rotational: strength, speed, and power. How are we going to test? How are we going to implement specific training to stimulate desired adaptations, and how to monitor? Part 5 will be the same, but for lateral strength, and speed, and power. And then finally, not finally, but part 6, goal setting, and more importantly, implementing new habits to reach those goals, a systematic approach for that as well. Part 7, let's let go of this organized chaos that we all are trying right now, and let's actually try to stimulate the desired adaptations that we're after. So let's go into it. I'm definitely going to try to give you guys a lot today, something to take away from here on out. Each of these shows, I want it to be about you guys, not about me or my athletes, but about you and what you can, and hopefully each show you can take something and implement it and make change within your own programs. Or, if you're a parent at home with your own child, or if you're an athlete with your own training. Sleep, we're talking, there's quantity and then there's quality. Nutrition, there's hydration, there's macros and micros. Really, I should add it, probably we're going to talk about supplements in that area as well. Recovery, sleep, sleeping. If you're not doing the sleep and nutrition, don't talk to me about recovery, but breath work, cool downs, PT, chiros, ice, saunas, and then hyperbaric chambers, etc. Consequences from poor sleep. This is straight from Dr. Chris Perry. That's going to be reduced performance, decision making will decline, learning and cognition will go down. So we'll get reductions in immune system function. That means you're going to get sick. It's susceptibility to weight gain, not the kind that we're after. So sleep is linked to mortality. Credit to Dr. Chris Perry as well, but sleep plays a critical role in general health and quality of life. Short and long sleep durations are significant predictors of all-cause mortality. We're looking at 7 to 9 hours as a solid starting point. Check this out for all of you basketball coaches, all of you coaches really, because this is going to apply to any sport. But Stanford basketball study showed 2 extra hours improved shooting percentage 9% in just 1 year. So there's the study. Go check it out. Here's some sleeping recommendations depending on the age, but newborns 14 to 17. And there's your ranges as well. So if you want to pause this, take a picture, whatever, once again, total credit to Dr. Chris Perry. Sleep quality. This is where I would start if I were you. So, but sleep regularity is more important than duration. So staying within 30 to 60 minutes of sleep regularity, that means if you have a certain bedtime, staying within 30 to 60 minutes of that. And same thing when it comes to waking up. Stay within 30 to 60 minutes of your norm. Avoid late night eating, workouts, and bright lights. Start dimming the light after sundown, and then 1 to 2 hours before bed, cut it into full darkness. Eliminate blue light first, and then bright lights after this. So eliminate your screens on your iPads and your cell phones first. Definitely 1 to 2 hours. Cut that off, and then television. Try to get it off as soon as you can, but the cell phones is for sure. And we'll go into detail when we break this down by itself. But then wait 1 hour before breakfast upon waking, and instead go outside and get some natural light. Stop eating 2 to 3 hours before bed. Leptin and ghrelin are all mixed up. Leptin is a satiation hormone. It gets inhibited. So you're going to start to make bad choices is what we're saying. Temperature, about 68 degrees. That's in your room. And then slowly, and at least, and then slowly bring that up as you wake up in the morning. A hot bath or sauna before bed is good for people because it peaks the heat, and then when you get out, lowers the temperature, kind of like a proper circadian rhythm should do. Some people that have low HRVs, aka high stress individuals, might do better with cold or ice baths. So consider a wearable like Oura Ring, something that can help you see if you're making good decisions and hold you accountable. The thing that impresses me the most about the Oura Ring and the Whoop is that you can have certain team arrangements to where you can hold your athletes accountable. So that I would recommend those two. Things about nutrition: a half ounce of water per body weight, per pound of body weight. So replace 125% of the fluid lost during training. So if you lose, 5 pounds, or let's say you lose 3 pounds, you're going to increase that. You're not just going to put 3 pounds of fluid back in, but like 3, and you're going to put 125%. So 8 ounces of prior to training, 500 milligrams of salt before and after training. So quote from Dr. Galpin, being middle of the road on hydration is fine, but even one standard deviation will induce fatigue, brain fog, and GI distress. So it's a big deal, y'all. Macro recommendations: protein 1 gram per pound of body weight. These are minimums. I would do more personally. Carbs 3 to 12 per pound of body weight. Fat 20 to 35% total calories from fat. Body weight in pounds times 15 is a maintenance. If males at 15% body fat and women at 24% body fat. So there you go. The recovery tips, these are mine. Don't get overly fatigued by monitoring fatigue. So what I mean by that is by using velocity with jumps and monitoring your norm. Now what you're going to want to do is measure your vertical leap for about 3 weeks. And then you'll start to get a standard deviation, and then you can look and see a normal range. And if you're out of that normal range, you can, if you're kind of low on the spectrum, you might want to consider just cutting the day's volume and intensity by 25%. But if you're way above that normal range, fatigue wise, so you're not jumping as high or jumping as fast, however you want to mark it. And we'll go into detail when we come to this. And I got some really good ideas for you on this one, but you might consider just doing some light bodybuilding and going home. This whole thing of back in the day where we would make our athletes get up at 5 a.m. and just absolutely beat them up, that might need to end. So strength warm-ups, so standardize. So what I mean by that is you can standardize the warm-ups you're going to use with squatting, benching, deadlifting, and you can start to see along the way if you're way off from norms with your velocity, cut it. So track your recovery like you track volume, man. I know Hampton Morris, he's king of this. Saunas after training. How much are you doing that? Cold plunge in the morning and a couple of days after hypertrophy training. So don't try to avoid doing it. Not try. If you're going to do hard training, don't do cold plunge right after because it can inhibit some of those gains. So pick your time. And we'll go into detail more on when we come back to this section later on. So doing some cold and hot, I like the contrast preferably. Hyperbaric chamber saturates tissue with oxygen for healing, improves brain function, and possibly even more. Here locally, Dr. Lawrence Gray is a chiropractor I go to. He's got some really good, high quality hyperbaric chambers. You can't beat them when it comes to recovery, but also just picking out your good practitioners. Dr. Gray's been with me since 2002. That's how important he is to me. Lee Howard here locally, my physical therapist, and thinking about doing things like compression, just some things. We'll go deep. Don't worry, just later. These are just some tips for now. Part 3, testing with clear insight on the KPIs that matter to the sport and individual, how to implement change and how to monitor. So we're talking about movement, having like specific movement like testing. Like we use the overhead squat, but then if the overhead squat is off, then we go to the individual joints. But improved velocity, specific percentages of body weight. That's my favorite. Looking at the squat, pulls, or what, there's other elements that we look at 50, 75, and 100% of body weight, and sometimes 110%. And what we're looking at is those loads stay relatively the same as long as we don't gain or lose weight. But if those velocities go up, that's a good thing. That's increased power is what that is. So power and rate of force development of the clean at specific loads, improved loads at specific velocities, like 0.75. That's pretty much where a collision happens on the line of scrimmage. 1.09. That's the first step of the receiver. Looking at changes in the reactive properties with RSI, etc. So, don't just come in and just have your athletes always moving. Don't let them. You don't want to let them sit down for heaven's sakes. I want adaptations. Maybe you just want to make it look kind of cool. I want to make the results really cool. So rotation, strength, speed, and power. We can actually use the Anchor to measure power. So I'm super excited about that. It's because we're bridging Anchor with GymWare. And so it'll be able to go to the Flex app and we'll be able to see the speed of rotation. And so, all right, just to finish up here, what I wasn't able to, show those videos. So what I did is I want to be able to do lateral speed, and I want to be able to measure. I want to be able to measure power, lateral strength, lateral. And so we're going to use the anchors now that are going to be adapted with the GymWare software. But I'm also going to use like a landmine and I want to look at lateral strength with landmine, like a landmine lateral lunge or the skater lunge that you see, but actually measure. And I want to measure it just like I would anything else, because right now we don't measure lateral force production or rotational force production or really horizontal force production like we do linear. So that's my goal. And then with rotation, let me take this one and let's add this one. This is my man Ryan when we were at the Sorinex show, and he was he won the power punch. And so you see how you can actually measure. And then think about that with the Anchor, you can measure however, and it can go down to really light resistance, which you want it to be specific. If you're a golfer, you don't want heavy resistance, or even a baseball player, so you can mimic it you can make sure that it mimics the pitch, a swing, a punch. But we've got to start looking at rotation and measuring it strength wise, speed wise, and power wise. So just like we would with anything else. All right, so goal setting and habits. I recommend Atomic Habits, James Clear. That is my guy. But we need specific like curriculum, teaching our athletes how to not just goal setting. It's easy to say, "Hey, I want to make it to the Olympics," whatever. So everyone tells me that. But what do your habits look like, and like how can I help you create better habits to get to where you want to go? So, and then let's let go of this organized, chaotic mess. And so instead of like, just making sure athletes are moving, kind of like this one over here, like where we talked about, testing with clear insight. I definitely want to do that, like um, improving speed and specific, KPIs and not just like, not just training, but actually ensuring that we're hitting the proper KPIs. But let's let go of organized chaos and like let's look at power. Let's make sure that we are, if power is our goal, or we're going to measure power. If the rate of force development is our goal, we're going to measure that. If speed or reactive properties, whatever our goals are, we're going to actually start to measure these things and make sure that our programs are reaching and meeting those desired outcomes. So let me show you. I don't know if I'll be able to play this or not. Probably not. So get up, use your arms, get up. So whatever, these are some of the tools that we use to measure. We use Swift for speed. We use the jump mat for from Swift to do RSI, counter movement jumps, concentric jumps. But we're going to add some different with jumping too. We're going to make some changes there. We use the shred mill to measure the specific qualities and actually to measure the improvements of the specific qualities throughout a training block to make sure that those are improving. Meanwhile, testing the actual speed to see if it's working or not, which it is. So anyway, guys, I hope that makes sense. That is what I think is missing. This is the things that I'm going to help bring to the table. I hope you learned a little bit today and gives you some ideas of what's coming. But if you have any questions, email me, Travis at Rise Indoor Sports. You can email here. This is riseindoorsports.com. Matchelite.com, though, for all of your, online needs. We've got ebooks. We've got the online team. We're going to help you. We've got a lot of new tools about to come, though. A lot of new educational tools or courses. A lot of things that we plan on doing and hoping with, along with Sore Necks, Flywheel, Anchor, sorry. Even new velocity-based training courses. So I'm excited about that. Go to Bridge. This is the link to all of our online team and programs. Thanks, guys.